I was sitting on the steps near my bank, smoking a cigarette, and noticed a guy with a blue suit. "Are you Secret Service?" I asked. "What if I was?" he replied. "If you are, then I'll pass off your new 50s," I said. It was spring 1998, and I'd read that the 97 series of the new 50s had been printed but had not yet hit the streets. Historically, apparently, bad things happen to people who use fresh currency. "Are you Secret Service?" he asked. "I've been told that I was," I said. "By a uniformed Secret Service agent?" "By the lady at the front desk at the Secret Service office in Honolulu in 1995, I said. "Do you know anybody in the Treasury Department?" he asked. "Bob Rubin knows who I am," I said, without elaborating on the nickel fiasco. He took down my name. "Do you bank here?" he asked. I said that I did. A few days later, a guy asked me what my first purchase would be. "Excuse me?" I asked. "With your new 50s, he said. Aha, I thought. I had finally landed the job outright. I had been unemployed for some time and was beginning to become concerned about it. "A car?" I asked. He nodded and left. I was somewhat confused. He had left no instructions on how to proceed. I thought the obvious next step would be to go car shopping, so I went to the used car dealer down the street and said I was looking for something in the $3,000 range. I was shown different cars, but was really interested in a four-door, as my daughter still used a car seat, and I thought it would be easier if there were a door to open when securing the seat. The plan was for the ex-missus and the kid to move out when I found a job. The salesman said he had a car that might suit me, but there was a slight problem with it. I asked if it was stolen. He looked shifty-eyed and asked me if I wanted to buy a stolen car. I hummed and hawed, not knowing what to say. Then he burst out laughing. "I'll show you the car. We'll see if you like it." He showed me a red car. It was a 1989 Nissan Sentra. I loved it, and I told him I wanted to buy it. He said there was a slight problem with the paperwork, but I was a smart guy and could probably handle it. I asked what the problem was. It turned out that it was actually a 1990 vehicle, but the plate inside the door said it was a 1989. They build the cars the year before they sell them, he said. This one was sold as a new 1990 car in November of 1989. The problem was, he said, that the paperwork said the vehicle was a 1989 model, but that the coding in the VIN said it was a 1990. All I had to do was explain the mistake to the DMV. Did I think I could do it? I really liked the car, and he was knocking $1,000 off the asking price because of the paperwork. Sure, I said. I wanted it, and would think about it overnight and call him in the morning. I spent that night waiting for the Secret Service to call, but unbeknownst to me at the time, my little niece, who intercepted each phone call, was telling people on the other end of the line that there was nobody there with the last name they were looking for. I guess nobody told her that I had a different last name. When I found out about this months later, I asked what her mother's maiden name was. She didn't know, and when I asked what her mother's last name was before she married her father, the niece replied that her mother had never had a different last name. I guess she didn't know how these things worked. The next morning, even without confirmation from the Secret Service, I decided I would buy the car on credit. I was still in the middle of a job hunt, and my current system of taking buses and trains up to Berkeley to borrow a car to drive back down to the Silicon Valley for interviews wasn't working out very well. I called the salesman to tell him that I still wanted the car and asked if he would take a credit card. He said no. Well, I figured I would go back to my bank to take a cash advance off my credit card. When I got to the bank, the teller looked at my ID and said, "Oh, you're him," then went into the back. Of course I'm me, I thought. She returned with two men. One asked, how much would I be withdrawing? $3,500, I said, having been advised that there were $400 extra in fees and taxes for the car purchase. One man nodded and returned to the back of the bank. The other leaned forward and said in a low voice that I was to use these bills for legal purchases only, and I was to only use them at face value, not selling them as collector's items. I realized what was happening, so I asked for another $500 to use as gas money for my commute to San Francisco, as I imagined I'd be working out of that office. They brought the money and I examined it. It was new and it was ugly. This is the series where the faces were elongated, but the color hadn't arrived yet. It was wretched-looking money. The teller pointed out the serial number of the first one. It was the first one that had been printed. I asked if she had any lemons and a toothpick. She figured out what I intended and returned with a lemon and a toothpick. "Can I write it?" she asked, the secret message. I said, "Okay," and watched her spell out in lemon juice on the bottom of the bill, "This is a stick-up." At first I was concerned. Did she think this was a stick-up? Was this a stick-up? No, I thought. She was just being clever. Then she asked for my credit card. I hesitated, then realized that if I wanted to be a super-duper top-secret Secret Service agent, I had to put it on my card so that no one would be the wiser. I could always pay it back out of my new salary. I signed for it, then left with my new money. I had been advised to use the first bill in a place where people knew who I was. Well, they know who I am at 99 Bottles, I thought, and went there and ordered a Guinness. I paid with the new money. The waitress wasn't my regular, so at the first didn't want to take it. "It's legit," I assured her. "It's just new." The barkeep said he knew me and that the waitress should take it because I'd be back. I assured them that I'd be back in a bit, then went and bought the car. The salesman's eyes grew big at the money. "Where did you get this?" "From the bank. It's good. It's just new." "May I see the envelope?" "Sure," I said, and, after removing the rest of the money, handed him the envelope. He called the bank number that was on the envelope. When he heard that, yes, I had just received the new bills from that bank, he completed the transaction. I drove back to 99 Bottles. There was a commotion. There were police. They wanted to know if I had had anything at all to do with the printing of this money. I said that yes, I had been involved, as I had included instructions on what to do with the money in my document that I had submitted to the government. Which government organization? They wanted to know. I explained that the BFD had confiscated my document, but that I had given instructions that the relevant material be forwarded to the Treasury Department. Did they have any proof? They saw that my driver's license said BFD, but realized it was my driving endorsement. "This doesn't prove that you're BFD," they said. I explained that I wasn't making the claim. I was merely trying to establish my identity. "Are you BFD?" they asked. Without answering, I explained that I had just been with the Secret Service. "Do you work for the Secret Service?" they asked. "Truthfully, I do," I said. They asked for the paperwork associated with the money. I produced the credit receipt. "You got this money off a credit card?" That wasn't proof that I was a Secret Service agent. I said that I had spent the morning in actions benefiting the Treasury Department. "Look, just call the bank," I said, and gave them the number. After about 10 minutes, he returned and said, "Well, we have established that you are not a counterfeiter. However, we have also established that you are a prevaricator." But because of the evasive manner in which I had answered the questions, they couldn't prosecute me for impersonating a federal officer. Well, that's good, I thought.